Hello, everyone, and welcome to Youth Unemployment in Canada, Long-Term Risks, and How to Support the Next Generation of Canadian Leaders. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where in Canada you are. Feel free to drop a quick message in the chat to tell us where you're tuning in from today. My name is Carly Reynolds. I am the Digital Marketing and Events Coordinator at ICTC, the Information and Communications Technology Council. I am based in Ottawa, Ontario, and I have the privilege of kicking us off today. Before we officially begin, we would like to acknowledge the land on which we live and work. We are living on Turtle Island, the land colonized as North America. This land is shared by thousands of First Nations tribes who have been here for time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the Métis and Inuit peoples as well, and ask that we move forward together, acknowledging the truths of the past and repairing those relationships in order to walk side by side into the future. Today, gathered in this digital space, we invite you to take a moment to reflect on the traditional, ancestral, unceded Inuit, Métis, and First Nations territories on which you are settled. With that, if you are new to our work, ICTC is a neutral, not-for-profit national center of expertise with the mission of strengthening Canada's digital advantage in the global economy. For over 30 years, we have delivered forward-looking research, practical policy advice, and capacity-building solutions for individuals and businesses. Our goal is to ensure that technology is utilized to drive economic growth and innovation, and that Canada's workforce remains competitive on a global scale. Okay, today we are gathered to discuss youth unemployment in Canada. So we are going to unpack ICTC's latest research on the subject. We're going to explore work-integrated learning, or WIL, as a possible solution. And then we will conclude with a panel discussion on how these items are playing out coast to coast, hopefully all within 1 hour. This webinar is live and meant to be interactive, so we encourage you to use the chat or Q&A functions to ask questions. We also are going to try to launch some polls to learn more about you and tailor the discussion accordingly. When you leave the webinar, there's also a short optional exit survey. This session is being recorded, and we will share the presentation with attendees in follow-up. Okay, we want this webinar to be as insight-packed as possible, so I am going to stop talking and pass things over to our first speaker, ICTC's Senior Research and Policy Analyst, Erik Henningsmoen. Erik's research at ICTC focuses on digital talent and workforce development, AI compute and digital infrastructure, and Canada's semiconductor industry. He is a co-author of the ICTC report, Youth Unemployment in Canada, the Role of Work-Integrated Learning in Building Resilient Careers. Take it away, Erik.
Thank you so much, Carly. And just going through the chat, and I'm so happy to see folks from all over Canada were really well represented geographically at this webinar. So that's super exciting. So, oh, there it goes, a little delayed. So, yeah, so Canada's youth unemployment. It's been a topic you've probably seen in the media, and it's gotten a lot of significant attention over the past year or so. In policy circles and business community. And young people, recent graduates are entering the labor market, facing a challenging economic situation. To explore this issue, ICTC carried out a study to better understand youth unemployment in Canada, its negative downstream effects, which we often get referred to as labor market scarring, as well as assess the potential for work-integrated learning or WIL programs, so things like internships, co-op placements, apprenticeships, as a tool to at least help partially remedy the situation. So, youth unemployment, it's not just media hype, it's real. So data from Statistics Canada speak to an upsurge of youth unemployment over and above an already heightened rates of Canadian unemployment. So throughout 2025, youth unemployment, those between 50 and 24 years, has moved around between 12 to 14%, compared to about around 7% of the workforce as a whole, so about double. And then when we look at the established workforce, so those 25 plus years, it's which is 5 or 6%, it's substantially higher. And when we look at the summer job market as well, you can see this issues with youth unemployment too. So Canadian returning students face a difficult time securing a summer job over last summer as well. So this chart just shows summer unemployment rate of Canadian students. So those are people who would have sought work starting in June and then would have returned full time to post-secondary programs the following September. And we find that as aside from that spike that you saw during COVID, the we've reached heights of summer unemployment last seen since the 2008 financial crisis and the 2025 or 2012 economic slowdown. And summer jobs are important because they can help students finance their next year of school, and they're also critical in helping students gain valuable experience when they graduating, starting looking for their first job out of school. And when we think in terms of NEETs, so Canadian students not in employment, education, or training, are also seeing an upward trend across the different age cohorts of young people. And rising NEET rates can indicate worsening economic conditions, especially for younger workers, highlighted issues of intergenerational fairness and social marginalization. And at a national economic perspective, higher increasing NEET rates can also reflect inefficient use of human capital, which could harm national economic productivity, both in the short and long term. And when we start thinking about unemployment for youth, sometimes it gets framed as more of a short-term thing. So, and there is a short-term aspect. So, someone who can't find a job, can't draw income to support their life. But then there's also more long-term downstream effects to that. So, heightened rates of youth unemployment have important effects on the health of the Canadian workforce downstream. Graduating from a post-secondary education program and entering the labor market during a recession or other economic downturn makes it more challenging for graduates to find an employment that matches their education level and training. And graduates who face the challenge of entering a workforce during a downturn often will face long-term, multi-year adverse effects on their career paths, wage earnings, and even their future health and well-being. So this phenomenon, where graduates entering labor force during a downturn, is often referred to as labor market scarring. So what this looks like for an individual, it could include reduced initial wages, slower career progression over time, and lower job quality. Um, Economics research suggests that graduating during a recession can reduce a cohort's average wages by 9% and lead to suppressed wages for up to a decade. And research also suggests that cohorts of young people graduating during a recession may, on average, face poor health outcomes and health behaviors later in life, have lower rates of family formation, and higher rates of divorce years after entering the labor market. So there's an income piece and career piece, as well as a health and well-being and life milestone piece as well, you could say. So why does this happen? So why is labor market scarring a thing? So research by the OECD suggests there's four main mechanisms driving labor market scarring. So one is human capital destruction. So this is recent graduates spending time unemployed or underemployed, may miss out on workplace learning and development opportunities, which can hinder their career long term. There's bad matching. That's recent graduates entering the labor market during a downturn, find jobs that are suboptimal fits for their education, training, or interests and aptitudes, and as a result, may face delayed career advancements. So maybe you've graduated with a bachelor's degree or a college diploma, and you can't find work in your field, so you take a job for a few years that doesn't require that level of education. So you're not able to use those skills, or maybe it's in an industry you're not interested in being part of or not even good at, but it pays the bills. But you can see how that delays people's career and might inhibit wages down the line. There's a structural skills match. So this is where recent graduates, particularly from programs that cater to specific jobs or industries, enter a labor market during a downturn and I have skills and knowledge that no longer meet the needs of the contemporary economy as entire industries go into decline or disruption. I'm from Alberta, from Calgary, and we saw this about 10 or 15 years ago in the oil and gas industry, where during the boom times, people could kind of come out of engineering degree and potentially make six figures right after graduation, where once the downturn hit, they would struggle to find jobs as that industry faced a downturn as well as significant amounts of automation. Structural skills mismatches are an important scarring mechanism to ponder as we grapple with the issue of AI and its effect on labor markets. And then finally, there's psychosocial scarring and signaling effects. Psychosocial scarring, that's recent graduates seeking employment during a downturn, might reduce their career ambitions, accept lower paying or misaligned jobs. They might deal with a loss of confidence and corresponding slower career growth, become more risk adverse. And conversely, employers may interpret a graduate's failure to obtain employment quickly post-graduation as a negative signal regarding the student's employability and professional potential. So that's pretty dismal to consider. Is there a way to fix this? So, from ICTC's perspective, work integrated learning or WIL programs, such as internships, practicums, apprenticeships, co-ops, offer a partial remedy to combat both worsening youth unemployment and those labor market scarring risks faced by a current cohort of young people and recent graduates in Canada. Students graduating from WIL programs tend to have higher post-grad incomes compared to peers who did not participate in WIL, are more likely to work in jobs related to their education, improve their professional skills and confidence, and are less likely to be in a role they're overqualified for. And when you think of those labor market scarring mechanisms that I shared earlier, will can be used to kind of combat them directly. So for human capital destruction, you can counteract it by helping students apply their skills in a real world employment context. From a bad matching perspective, it reduces the risk of a bad match by giving students an opportunity to experience employment in their field of study, as well as give employers the opportunity to evaluate a student in a lower stakes employment context than if they were hiring for a permanent position, which may be few during a recession. Structural skills match. So in the case of structural unemployment, it can will program, a targeted one, can help students graduating into a declining industry sort of do a lateral move into an adjacent industry where they're better able to use the skills they've gained in their studies and improve their future job prospects. And then for psychosocial scarring and signaling effects, completing a WIL program such as a co-op helps a student to signal employability while also helping the student increase his or her confidence on the job. And for ITCC's own experience offering WIL programs to post-secondary students. It demonstrates how thoughtfully applied WIL program, such as a co-op, can help improve students' post-secondary employability. Back in 2024, ICTC did a long-range survey of its WIL program participants who participated in an ICTC-funded WIL co-op from 2020 to 2023. 93% of the respondents reported to have graduated by the time they took the survey, with 71% of respondents reporting they'd been employed full or part-time post-graduation, with only 9% reported to be struggling to find work, so lower than that like average we saw throughout Canada for young people. 58% of respondents holding full or part-time jobs reported to have secured the job directly because of their ICTC WIL program, with 30% landing a job with the employer they had completed their WIL program with. Furthermore, 27% of students had a different employer, but they landed that job because of the experience and expertise garnered during their WIL placement. Furthermore, 25% of the respondents landed a post-grad role because of other WIL programs they had participated in. So they had done an ICTC co-op and they had participated in other ones too. So, expanding will programming to make it more widely available to Canadian students, new grads, and job seekers could help combat heightened youth unemployment as well as counteract the negative downstream labor market scarring effects you're seeing in times like this. So, we also, as part of this research we did, we also just started thinking about, from a wider perspective, how do we foster collaborative will or a national work integrated learning framework for Canada, and like what role different facets of society have. So for government, they can act as a program funder and and a policy implementer. So fund will programming through things like wage subsidies, grants for supplementary training for students to take while they go through their will programs, as well as help financial costs of will program administration and research and program evaluation. For employers, obviously, be a be a place for will placements, whether that be through apprenticeships, co-ops, and internships, or practicums, as well as collaborate with post-secondaries and other stakeholders. For post-secondary, they're the program providers, so offer will programming relevant and accessible to students pursuing programs across the institution. Uh, Typically, traditionally, maybe will was really focused on more vocational type of programs or STEM focused programs, so like business and engineering and sciences. But I think there's also tons of room for to get other parts of the campus involved. So things like liberal arts, arts and humanities, fine arts, that sort of thing. All students can benefit from these types of programs as they launch their postgraduate journeys, as well as promote wheel programming and its importance to post-secondary employment outcomes to students and other institutional stakeholders. So I think it's important that students know that these programs are available and actually how impactful they are. It's worth maybe if often in university you have to delay graduation to participate in a year of work will programming like a co-op. So it's important that they know it's totally worth it in almost all cases. Post-secondaries can also develop sustainable employer partnerships at the local, provincial, and national level as appropriate, and monitor and evaluate program effectiveness. And then for civil society, nonprofits, they can act as conveners and program innovators. So collaborate with post-secondaries, employers, and government to advocate for will programming, help administer national and sector-specific will programming that's like kind of offered cross-institutionally across a number of campuses. Uh, Work across campuses and regions, develop best practices, research, and public policy leadership on will programming, and developing that body of evidence on how it works and what are the best ways to implement these programs. And then carry out research and systematic evaluation of will programming nationally. And then also another important stakeholder that is kind of obvious, but sometimes we miss in the discussion is the students themselves. So students, they're the learners. They need to seek relevant will placements during their post-secondary studies, actively learn and work hard during their will placements and appreciate it for the opportunity that it is for them. And then strive to integrate their skills and theoretical knowledge they learn during their academic programs into employment context during their will placement. If you're interested in learning more about this research we did, the study is called Youth Unemployment in Canada, the Role of Work Integrated Learning in Building Resilient Careers. And we published it in the fall last year, and it's available on our website or through the QR code I just shared on the screen. And with that, thank you for listening to me about our research, and I'm going to pass it back to Carly, who will introduce the next part of the session.
Thanks so much, Eric. That research is so timely and valuable. Um, like Eric said, scan the QR code on screen now. It'll take you to the full report where all this data comes from. I also want to note we have lots of other research and policy briefs to check out on our website, including reporting on AI and employment trends. So lots to discover there. Doing a quick check. I'm seeing lots of engagement in the chat and the Q&A. If we don't get to your question today live, we'll try to reach out to you with an answer via email. Now, I am delighted to intro our next speaker, who will additionally moderate today's panel discussion. Please welcome ICTC's Program Manager of Capacity Building Initiatives, Sade Murray. Welcome, Sade.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carly. Erik, amazing presentation. I think that was so insightful. And as Carly mentioned, I'm seeing a lot of engagement in the chat. So I'm excited for our panel discussion and to have deeper conversation with the audience. I've been with ICTC for about 6 years now, and I am about to speak on our Will Digital program. If we can go to the next slide, please. ICTC's Will Digital program has been around since about 2018. So some of you may be on the call. Some of you may already be aware of our Will Digital program, while others, this might be new information, and this might be the reason that you're on the call, in addition to learning about youth unemployment across the region. Essentially, if you are an employer and you are looking to grow your business, launch a new product, develop something new, as long as the role is related to an ICT digital role, then ICTC can support it. We can support it. We can work with you guys and help you. So as you guys can see, businesses can receive up to $7,000 of a student's salary per term. The wage subsidy is either $5,000 for hiring a non-underrepresented student, or 50% of salary, if you will, or $7,000 if you hire a underrepresented student, capped at about the 70% of the salary. Our underrepresented groups include students with disabilities, Indigenous students, visible minorities, women in technology, and first-year students. So if you hire from one of those demographics, then you would receive an increased subsidy. Our application portal is very simple, very easy to navigate, and we do have some funding available, which we will talk about later on this call. But I encourage everyone to check it out a little bit more and to engage with our team. We do have our industry ecosystem and engagement team on the line now. So we'll have we'll do a deep dive chat into unemployment, into Will Digital, and how that can be a solution for employers. And then you'll have the opportunity to connect with your regional representative. So enough about the Will Digital program. I think let's get into a little bit of our conversation. So the first thing that I'm going to do is pass it to a couple of my colleagues just to actually introduce themselves, and kind of the work that they've been doing in the region. And then we'll get into some tough questions. So I'm going to pass it to our Senior Director of Industry and Ecosystem Engagement, Iman Yahweh. Iman, you can, I'll start with you, and then we can pass it around to introduce the team, and let's get into some insightful conversation. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Shadi. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar, and I hope you find the presentation, the report that will be shared, as well as the conversations we're going to have right now useful. My name is Iman, as Shadi mentioned. I'm Senior Director for Industry and Ecosystem Engagement function here at ICTC. I'm based in Toronto, and I've been with ICTC for just over a year. You see some of my great colleagues from coast to coast who will introduce themselves and share some insights from their regions. But all to say that my function, our function, is responsible for engaging with our external stakeholders and our community of service at ICTC. That includes a large body of employers, companies of all types and shapes that are part of the digital economy of Canada, as well as academic institutions, individual students, government stakeholders, and we each basically take a share in managing those relationships in our regions, basically. Looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you. Dave, would you like to go next and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Sade. My name is Dave Murray. I'm the senior advisor based in Calgary, and I look after the work that Iman just described across the prairie provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. I've been with ICTC it'll be coming up on 3 years in April, and my background is in energy. I sort of cut my teeth in the energy field here in Calgary.
Thanks for that. Tim, can we pass it to you next?
Absolutely. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Tim Perron, and I'm the Senior Advisor here in Atlanta, Canada, based in Halifax. Work with organizations across the region. If anybody has interest in finding out more about ICTC and the good work that we do, please reach out. My background is in software development. I was back in the day before AI was a thing. So happy to chat about that and looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you. And Graham, can I call
Yeah,
on you next?
thanks, Sade. Good morning from the West Coast, everyone. My name is Graham Cilia Cook. I'm the senior advisor in BC. I'm in the Comox Valley on Vancouver Island, for those of you familiar. I'm actually quite new to ICTC, so I know we have some partners and friends on the call from BC who I haven't had the chance to meet with yet. So do please feel free to reach out anytime just to chat or if you have any questions. Um, like the other said, my background is also somewhat different. I come from economic development in Toronto specifically. And yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting some of you, having this chat, and finding ways to collaborate. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, Graham. And last but not least, Carl, I'll pass it to you before we get into the discussion.
Hi everyone, my name is Carl Bernatchez. I'm the Senior Advisor, Industry and Ecosystem Engagement for the province of Quebec at ICTC. It's a pleasure to meet you. Before, I was the lead in artificial intelligence at my tax for the Quebec province, and I'm looking forward to advance AI in the Quebec province and other fields like quantum computing and clean tech.
Perfect. Thank you. So as you guys can see, we have a lot of different backgrounds, all here focusing on the same purpose. So super excited for this conversation. As Carly mentioned, we will have a poll with a few of these questions. So I encourage each of you to put your answers in there and continue in the chat. We have a lot of questions here, so we're going to try to get to a few of them if we can. My first question for the panel, and I think Erik really touched on this during his presentation in terms of what youth unemployment looks like across the nation. But I just wanted to point to each of you so that you can really speak towards how is youth unemployment affecting your region specifically. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. Let's take a little plane ride across the nation. Tim, we're gonna start with you. Let's go east to west this time.
Absolutely. Start with the most important part first. Yeah, so what I'm hearing with my industry partners and academic partners as well is that there's a downturn in interest in hiring entry-level roles. I think generative AI is having an impact. But I think complicating the fact is that a lot of the provincial governments are reducing their funding for work integrated learning as well. So it's becoming quite an issue. And then in the small to mid-size enterprise space, balancing bringing in generative AI to increase productivity and reduce costs versus continuing to hire students, which perhaps cost more, but are also a necessary thing to do if we don't want to break that talent pipeline. It's a real juggling act.
Yeah, definitely. So just looking at the difference and as employers managing the value add to the contribution to Canadian society and future employment and making sure that the students of today are ready for the jobs of tomorrow while also balancing that digital transformation. It's a very huge topic. Next we're gonna go. We started in the east. Let's continue west. I'm going to point it over to you, Carl. You're next up. And so the question was, how are the challenges of youth unemployment playing out across Canada, but specifically in the Quebec region?
Yeah, thank you, Sade. Youth, the Quebec's youth unemployment is around 11% in Quebec, which is relatively low, even better than the national 13%. And we've got big regional gaps in the province of Quebec. Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean and are struggling way more than Montreal, I would say.
And in tech, it's like a mixed bag. IT entry jobs goes down like 18% since 2023 from AI automation and other related thing. And but AI youth unemployment is only 7.8% because of Mila, Ivadu, and other cluster that are pumping out a lot of internships. So I think the program will work. Integrated learning works great with those cluster and economic development organization like Economic Development Laval, who goes very well in the province. But our SMEs needs more love, so simpler portals, more subsidized tax credits to increase the digital innovation.
Yeah, definitely. So seeing a little bit of not necessarily success because 11% is still high, but it's smaller than the national average. So maybe the rest of the country needs to take some tips from Quebec to make sure that we can advance that. Iman, over to you. How are the challenges of youth unemployment? What are you seeing in the Ontario region?
Oh, thank you for that. So, at the aggregate, it's not much different, I suppose, from what my other colleagues observing in the east side as well as in Quebec, in that there seems to be, after the whole hotness of AI and the hiring rampage in and around AI across the ecosystem, which we saw a lot of in Ontario, we are now seeing a little bit of a cooling. I think I wouldn't necessarily use the term maybe AI in winter, similar to quantum winter just yet. But we are definitely seeing a shift as a result of this prominence of generative AI. Now, that's a bit of a downturn, but at the same time, and this is based upon our look into our Will Digital data, which is an increasing pool of students and employers, thanks to the consistent funding that we've been receiving and delivering to the market, that while I see some downturns in some segments of the market in terms of entry-level roles, I also see a shift, though, in the nature of the roles for which these students are being employed. I'm seeing a very clear shift, at least in this region, but also mirrored across Canada. In the titles and the kind of skills the companies are hiring for, I also see a shifting dynamics between the larger employers as well as the smaller ones. In the larger ones, I'm starting to see a shift from all projects have something to do from their title, quite evidently with AI, to stuff that are a little bit more layered on their existing operations. So it's almost a shift back to where we were, almost before the introduction of AI. And now these larger firms are trying to figure out, okay, here is yet another tool in our toolbox. We de facto assume that incoming students should be armed with these baseline technologies. And now their question is back to where they were in 2021. How this technology can help me? How does it improve my efficiencies? How does it impact my operations? So it's signaling a layering of AI with some advanced knowledge of the core business you're trying to get into. And I believe this addresses in part one of the questions posted in the Q&A, that what sort of skills that you're seeing coming on demand. I think it's fair to say that AI now, knowledge of Gen AI, some coding is a baseline, but now we're seeing additional specialization based on the sector. The other thing that is rising a little bit with the emergence of AI and the more prominence of AI, and we all are hearing the calls from the government for domestic AI. Uh, Soon, all the supportive roles for AI will be on demand, and you're seeing some early signals. Things that support compute, semiconductor, even energy, because AI will be energy hungry. We are starting to see some signals from the major firms operating in those areas that they are looking at sources of talent. So if you're a student from our audience today, start looking into some of those segments a little bit outside of AI, but definitely supporting and core and critical to AI. That's what we are observing right now.
Perfect. Thank you. So really looking at this shift, and I'm glad that you really touched on the differences between small businesses and much larger enterprises and some of the challenges there. I think that's a key component, and I think you did answer Tariq's question in terms of what field of study is more likely to give young people better employment prospects in Canada. There's your answer, Tariq, is making sure that you're upskilling or reskilling if necessary. And if you're still a student in study, ensuring that you are looking at future jobs and exactly what they're looking for, and based on the type of organization that you're looking to work at. Obviously, a startup is significantly different than a larger enterprise with thousands of people. Two more to go. So, Dave, in the prairie provinces, I'm going to pass it to you. What are some of the challenges you're seeing across the prairies as it relates to youth unemployment?
Thanks, Shade. You're giving me an opportunity to use my favorite word, and that's penultimate. So I'm happy to be the penultimate speaker for this set
Love
of
it.
questions. Yeah, there's a couple of thoughts. I mean, a lot of what we've heard coming from the East today is similar, whether it's the advent of AI, whether it's the sort of disruption that everyone's feeling. We're feeling that across the prairies, but there's also some diversification going on in the industries in the prairies that has some ramifications for this. So when people think of Alberta, and Saskatchewan and Manitoba, the first industry you often think of is oil and gas, followed very closely by agriculture. And those are still very dominant industries out here, but we're also seeing a lot of diversification in areas of tech and AI, which is I'm covering that as sort of a special subset in the tech space, but also tourism and even aerospace and defense is growing here as well. Now, that's an opportunity and a challenge for everyone. So a lot of students or recent grads or youth looking for their first opportunity often gravitate to the name brand employers, the big ones that we all know. But now there are many, many more small and mid-sized employers out there that people may not have thought of. So being aware of who's doing what in the workplace suddenly becomes a lot more important and a lot more challenging because if you're looking for employment, instead of focusing on sort of the 100 big employers in the area, you've got to start looking at 1,000 of other ones that may provide really meaningful and interesting work. So how do you navigate into that space without just firing off random applications? Means how do you network? How do you develop interest? How do you kind of filter down to figure out where your areas of interest are? These are all really important questions to be asking from a job searcher perspective. And then the flip side of that is as the employer, if they're struggling to find people, it becomes brand awareness on their side that they need to be getting out and networking and developing their networks as well to ensure that they are a known commodity for people that are seeking work opportunities. So it's twofold on that side. The other big piece that I think we see as something to pay attention to across the prairies is the rural versus urban divide. If you think of it, we probably have 5 major cities across the 3 provinces, some smaller cities and a lot of small towns. And there is a need for people to be working in all of those different areas. The easiest path to employment people often think of as in the urban centers. Come to Calgary, come to Edmonton, Saskatoon, Regina, and Winnipeg. But there's opportunities in the smaller centers as well. And it's something that I think people need to be willing to think about. And maybe a small move from where you've grown up to another area could be very beneficial to you. And I've got some other thoughts as well, but I'll share those for some of the other point of the
Perfect.
discussion.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's extremely insightful, and it's something that we don't really think about in comparing, let's say, Nova Scotia to Ontario to the prairie provinces, just looking at the difference of that, right? So if you're using the mindset that you used when you were in Ontario to try to get a job, now that you've moved out to Winnipeg, the results can be vastly different as the ecosystem is very different. So thank you for that, Dave. Last but not least, Graham,
Thanks, Sade.
how's
I
it
think
going in
that's
BC?
best for
Yeah.
last, Tim.
Yes,
or the
exactly.
ultimate speaker, Dave. I appreciate that too. So for BC, I think it's fair to say, like some of the others, what we're seeing isn't substantially different from the rest of the country. There was a report this summer that had us tracking higher than the national average at almost 17% youth unemployment. But there's some seasonality and fluctuations to that, so that's a pretty dynamic figure. One thing to note, sort of like Alberta, is the geographic disparity. So we have the bulk of the population in the Lower Mainland, which can actually be quite disconnected from the island, which can be disconnected from the interior. And then we have remote communities in the north and the mountains and the coast. So it's not always possible or easy to link talent needs with talent availability everywhere in the province. But one of the advantages of Will Digital is to try to make these linkages and sort of improve that regional retention. It's also worth noting that like housing and renting costs in places like Vancouver and Victoria, they actually make it really difficult for youth and new entrants in the workforce to be able to accept a position in Vancouver, for example, and afford living there if they don't already have housing. So some of those issues I mentioned are systemic, but they're worth noting. And then just a couple other kind of key differentiators for BC, our sectoral makeup. So for youth, we have kind of particularly strength in things like tourism and hospitality, and the resource-based economy, so forestry, mining, et cetera. And for us, it's important that youth employed in these industries are tech-enabled, so working with digital tools, data analytics, automation, what have you, which can encourage technology adoption in these industries and also allow the students to gain skills and experience that are applicable across other fields as well. So I'll just end with kind of a positive sign, which is that BC employers actually seem to be slightly higher adopters of Will per capita than other parts of Canada. So employers here do see the value of accessing new talent and value of training the next generation of talent as well. So some of that is due to the structures and organizations we have here, like ACEWIL, the Association of Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning, which build links between post-secondaries and students and employers. It's a model that's really successful and could potentially sort of be expanded to support recent grads and non-student youth as well. So that's some of what we're seeing out in BC.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that truly highlights some of the challenges. So youth unemployment is not just a one area or a one type of issue. It's something that's affected by other issues, as you mentioned, Graham, housing. That right there could affect whether or not somebody accepts a job in the region and moves to that region. As Dave was mentioning, sometimes it might take a move, right? And so if you do move and you're not able to afford the housing there, that could definitely affect your future in that region. I want to turn it to the audience now, in addition to our panel. And I want to launch a poll and get some feedback from you guys. Obviously, we'll have the panel members discussing this next question. But I did want to ask the audience as well, who do you think has the greatest responsibility for expanding work integrated learning opportunities? I know that we started in the East last time, so I'm going to, you should see it pop up on your screen now. And I'm going to ask the question again. So who do you think has the greatest responsibility for expanding work integrated learning opportunities? Graham, I know you just finished, but I'm going to turn it back over to you because we started in the East. Let's start in the West this time. If you can just tell us from your region and from your perspective, who do you think has had the most responsibility and the most impact?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a cop out to say everyone, but I think there's some truth to that. Is that each one of these organizations and each one of these structures has an important role to play. You might say, it comes top down, so government funding is going to be critical. But then there's policy advisory up towards the government, and then there's program delivery, and then there's making sure that the post-secondaries are connecting with employers. And then there's frankly responsibility of the employers to ensure that they're giving back to the economy and they're training that next generation. So I know it's a bit of a cop-out. I'm not going to pick one. I may leave that to my colleagues, but I'd say that each organization, each part of that structure is pretty critical in the process.
Of course. I definitely have to agree with you. I'm not going to let your colleagues cop out for the next couple questions, just so you know. And I think the feedback that we're getting from our audience here is saying the greatest responsibility lies with government and employers. So thank you for your votes. I think these are extremely insightful. Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you for your opinion and insights.
Yeah, I'll share that. This is a really interesting one for me because it's challenging as a capitalist employer, someone who's trying to build a business. Um, at a fundamental level, they're trying to make money and achieve their business goals. They don't have a social obligation to hire people. And there's a tension as a result of that. They need people to get their job done, but they don't have a goal to hire people beyond that. So I think helping employers figure out when and where they can best deploy human capital is a very important piece so that they're able to not just solve their immediate need today, but also take a longer term view and look at what that talent pipeline is. So they can do that if they have a policy framework set by the government. Although our program uses subsidy funding to help employers fulfill those needs and take some of de-risk the issues of hiring youth today. I think that's an important thing to do. But I think we also have to help businesses find ways to stand up on their own and figure out what their right staffing levels are. The other piece to it, students, and I don't care whether you're a youth student or an individual, continual learning, Iman touched on this before, is you need to continue to advance your knowledge and keep it current and be up to date on all of the latest trends that are affecting employment issues wherever you happen to be.
Definitely. I definitely agree. It's having that insight, having that understanding of um what opportunities are exactly out there. I am conscious of time, and I do want us to be able to get through all questions. So I'm going to jump to Iman, and then Carl, and then Tim. We'll have you wrap up this question before the next poll.
I'm going to keep it very brief in the interest of time. I have to agree with the result of the poll, with a minor shift in that, in this particular window of time, I would actually put a bit of a responsibility on the employers over that of the government. The government has already signaled in the renewal of this WPP program, for example, at an unprecedented amount that they are ready to chip in. And Canada, if you study basically the investment trends, has been among G7 one of the top investors in business-led R&D, basically. So they've tried to stimulate as much as possible. I think it's fair to say that this is a time for businesses to start to be a little bit more savvy, a little bit more open to take risks. I know these are economically uncertain times, but we would rather put a little bit of a push on the business side. And that's partly the role of my team here at ICTC as well, to work a little bit closer with the industry, make them aware of these opportunities, and then hopefully bring them and lure them into coming to the academic campuses and at least try the young talent that we have to offer, essentially. So I'll just take that bet here.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Iman. Very insightful. Carl, over to you.
Yeah, I agree with what Ivan said. I just want to add that for me, what I would like to see about this question and the answer is to get PSIs, post-secondary institution, more involved in organization. I know ICTC does that, my tax does that, but I feel that we can bridge we can bridge something between our professors and our organization to help them innovate.
Perfect. And Tim, over to you to wrap us up on this question.
Yeah, so just being brief, I agree with pretty much with what everybody has said. It is an ecosystem, a whole holistic ecosystem challenge. I just wanted to pick on a couple of people that we haven't picked on yet. I think students have a responsibility to demand more opportunities for work integrated learning in non-traditional co-op programs. So, for instance, someone who is a psychology major or an English major getting will opportunities in those programs, I think, is important. And therefore, I would also look at the post-secondary institutions, as Carl did, and I think that they also should be looking at their offerings and the evidence is out there that work integrated learning is effective. Let us introduce that into more programs and get more of those non-traditional work integrated learning opportunities out there so that students can get that experience.
Perfect. I completely agree. And thank you, everyone, for your different perspectives on the challenges of youth unemployment and then whose responsibility is it. I definitely agree that it is an ecosystem, a community effort to ensure our continued success across the nation. I have one more question for the audience, followed by comments from our panel. And then we will be trying to address, with the remaining 5 minutes, give or take, we'll try to address some of the questions that you guys have posed in the chat. So the question to the audience and to the team is to rank the benefits of work integrated learning that you believe are most valuable. That should be posed to the audience. You guys should see a pop-up shortly. I'm going to start with you, Iman, in the middle of our nation, and then we will maybe go east and west. So I'll start with you, Iman. The question is, rank the benefits of work integrated learning that you believe are the most valuable.
Absolutely. So if I go by these choices, I would have to say start with career clarity, essentially, translating what students have learned and tried in theory in the school and see how they pan out in a real work environment. I would add to it, and I would almost pair up improved soft skills and networking opportunities together. Definitely improve technical skills, but it comes after. You've already ideally learned a whole bunch of those at school and in your programs. You're just learning how to apply them to a real world problem and then putting increased confidence last. Hopefully, you already are confident enough embarking on these opportunities. It will definitely be a boost. So, that career clarity is something that I keep hearing from many students who've gone through these journeys and come out having learned, okay, like this could be my pathway, or this absolutely is not my pathway that I want to choose.
Right.
That would be my take.
I definitely agree. That's some good feedback that we've gotten from students after maybe they think that they want to be a cybersecurity specialist, and then they go into a placement in a cybersecurity environment, and they come out and they realize this is not the career path for me, or the complete opposite. So I definitely agree with that insight. Going on from there, Carl, I'm going to turn it over to you for your answer. So, if you had to rank the benefits of work integrated learning in terms of what's most valuable in the Quebec region, what would you say is the most valuable component?
So I think that the first one would be career clarity, as Iman said, because there's a big need in that. And the second one is for me networking, because networking is very important for our students to get employment, and it can unlock the Quebec's hidden market, I would say. And the third one would be the soft skills, because it's very important in our today's context. Technical skills and fourth, and confidence at the end.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I think that's in alignment with what we're seeing from our audience a little bit. From there, I'm going to jump over to Dave. So we're going to go east and west a little bit.
Yeah, this is an intriguing question. So I think from my perspective, career clarity is great from a will opportunity, because you get to experiment in different field areas. Shade, I think you said you try cybersecurity, and because you think that's the path you want to go down, and you realize maybe it's something else. But you've tried it, you've learned from it. And even if you learn that that's not what you want to do going forward, that's a massive learning to put into your toolkit. The other piece, I think, is combining sort of B and C. I don't think you're going to go into a workplace and learn new hard technical skills that you couldn't learn in an academic environment, but you will learn how those skills are applied in a practical work experience. And it's the same with soft skills. I mean, every student has a team project, and every student hates doing those. But that's life. That's reality. And figuring out what that looks like in the real world, I think becomes hugely important for individuals.
Yeah,
So
I
that's where I see
definitely.
the real value of work integrated learning opportunities from a student perspective.
Perfect. Love that. Um, Tim, and then we'll have, as we said, save the best for last. Graham, wrap us up. So, Tim, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So rather than sort of look at ranking them all from a student perspective, because we've been talking about the ecosystem, and I think that the different benefits depend upon who you are in that ecosystem. So from a student perspective, I think we've discussed that quite a lot. I would agree career clarity is super important. But thinking about it from the employer perspective, for example, what are the benefits of will? And I think perhaps they're less concerned about the students' career clarity, and maybe they're more concerned about improvement in confidence and soft skills that someone might learn when they're out there in the workplace. And then, of course, government has a different perspective on that. They get through work integrated learning, they get a more competent workforce, so they get more money from taxes and less funding. So I think it really depends on who you are in the ecosystem. But from a student's perspective, absolutely, career clarity I think is super important.
Perfect. Definitely agree. So a lot of people are saying the career clarity has to be the most important. I definitely echo that sentiment as well. Graham, over to you before we turn it over to the audience for just one or two questions because I'm very conscious of time. Do you want to
Yeah,
go
thanks.
ahead, Graham?
So just really quickly, I was going to take a similar tack to Tim, flip the question on its head, employer or benefits to the employer. So hiring students is it's not charity. Businesses get a lot out of it as well. They get access to the talent pipeline, highly skilled individuals, a lot of whom end up working with that company after they graduate. So that's really important. They're bringing in new skills, they're bringing in new perspectives. So it's not just about this is good for the student. This is really good for businesses and industry as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. Amazing. Thank you so much for all of your different insights. I know that we have about 1 minute remaining, so I'm gonna just pick one question from the audience and feel free, any of you guys can answer it. And then if you guys could stay just an extra 2 minutes, Iman just has a quick message to share with everybody following that. This conversation has been extremely insightful. I think we're starting to really hit the ground running in terms of having these discussions around youth unemployment and exactly what that looks like, where are the barriers, how can we actually bridge gaps related to that, and what it looks like across the region. So thank you all for your insight in this. And for a great discussion. I enjoyed myself. The question is from Gina Generou. Erik mentioned bad matching and student structured skills mismatches in the discussion on labor market scarring. How is ICTC helping individuals and organizations to be clear about the skills they have, those they need, and how to bring the two sides together? Do you already have best practices to share as you work with stakeholders across the country, or is this part of a bigger aspiration? So I'll flip this over to the team. Erik, also please feel free to jump in if you have some additional insight.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll try to be brief as well. We're already at time. How is ICTC helping individuals and organizations to be clear about their skills? So we didn't get obviously the chance to talk about other elements of ICTC's programming today. It's a vast portfolio of research and policy, but also another portfolio of law programs. And one of them is our e-learning portfolio of programming. And as part of the e-learning that is available to all our real students, we have components that are focusing on, for example, digital skills assessments for the candidates. So they can actually go through that test and basically develop an understanding of your background. What are some of the gaps? And then against those gaps, we do have a full portfolio of trainings that are available for free to the students. And we have done more or less the same in specific buckets with SMEs essentially and corporate decision makers trying to do some level of awareness building and upskilling and reskilling within the companies to develop that host capacity. And these host capacities combined with this the skills mapping for the candidates, the students themselves, would naturally and organically lead to hopefully better matches. That's all I can say in like 30 seconds. But more than happy, Gina, to follow up and chat a little bit further. Our emails are there in the slides that will be shared, and we can definitely pick that up. And I would love the other questions as well. So we'll be sure to address all of those after the meeting as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Iman. I will actually leave it to you
For
to
sure.
wrap us up. Yeah, we're at time, but thank you everybody for an amazing connection and amazing discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All I wanted to say is a message of thank you as well, reiterating what my colleagues mentioned. Thank you for staying 2 minutes over. Hope you found the session useful. And if you did, on February the 5th, we will have another version of this session with a bit of a more focus on Ontario. And that's something that we would run in partnership with our friends at eCampus Ontario. So hopefully in that conversation, we will bring about a little bit more insights that are Ontario focused, what sort of trends we're seeing in Ontario, and then complement that with some tools and resources that eCampus Ontario, as one of our partner organizations, has in their arsenal for Ontario clients. So if you have that interest, if you're based in Ontario or frankly elsewhere in Canada or looking for best practices, do not miss the meeting on February the 5th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that, I would like to thank you all again for your active participation and looking forward to staying engaged with you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.